Welcome back to Books with Duddy. Today we are doing a full spoiler discussion, talking about all the twists, turns, all of that in The Housemaid's Secret by Freida McFadden. This is the sequel to The Housemaid by Freida McFadden. So if you have not read that, I recommend going and checking out my video about The Housemaid. Otherwise, let's get started. Okay, so one of the things that I liked off the bat with this book is that Millie and Enzo had kind of gotten together. I think that made sense. It seems like their moral compass was very similar. And I figured Enzo would come back at some point in the book. I just wasn't sure, when or how. But it was kind of cool to the twist that he was the one with the broken headlight in I think it was a black Mazda, that had been watching Millie. He says as a bodyguard, she says stalking. And that's kind of where, it touches on, what Millie and Enzo did between the housemaid and the housemaid's secret. And I wanted to know more about that, because it sounded like they did some things by the book, but it also was implied that they had to get their hands dirty a few times. And I would have liked to have known more about how that happened, how they got away with it, all of that stuff. And that kind of ties into, I didn't understand why Millie was still so poor in this book. I mean, she had gotten basically a full year's salary from Nina already, and presumably at least some of the women that she was helping, her and Enzo were helping, were probably also wealthy. So for her to just be dirt poor, again, just didn't make a lot of sense to me. But maybe, again, that's part of why I wanted to know what happened in between the books. So then I want to touch on Millie's original love interest in this book, Brock, who is a very nice guy by all accounts. Didn't see any issues with him. And one of the things that really pissed me off about Millie in this book was her just stringing him along and just, at least lying to him. Well, she definitely lied straight up to him, but also lying a lot by omission. And she knew that he wanted more, and she knew that she didn't. And she still kept stringing him along, which, that's just not cool to do. And then the other thing that annoyed me, and I guess this is a specific instance, but, she lies to Brock basically the entire book, or doesn't tell him about her past, even though she knows she should, over and over again. And then he has to find out, when he's sitting in as her lawyer. Now, he should have been more professional as her lawyer, but I totally understand him kind of abandoning her after that. She hid everything from him. And then what annoyed me about it, as she's thinking about that whole thing with Brock and him leaving and all of that later on, she thinks to herself, of course Brock left when he learned about my prison record. And it was like, what? Did you learn nothing from this? That you should have just been honest and upfront? I think Brock left because she omitted, basically lied about who she was, and more so than just the prison record. And maybe he still would have left if she told him about the prison record, originally. But that thought that, he left because of my prison record, I don't think so. I think he left because you weren't honest about your past when you should have been. So that was, I don't know, that annoyed me with Millie. But the twist in this book, so obviously you knew it couldn't just be the same thing as the Housemaid. You know, and you saw cracks in Douglas Garrick, Russell, being more rude to Millie than Andrew ever was, but you knew it wasn't just going to be a simple thing like that. And so when Wendy kind of enlisted Millie, I was always kind of wondering if Wendy was somehow the bad guy in this situation. But I didn't know how. And especially I didn't know how when it appeared Millie had shot and killed Douglas. So then I was pretty confused. And then when everything came out and, you know, everything was put together, I was like, whoa. Like, damn. That was a twist. And then when we get to Wendy's point of view, like, holy shit. I was waiting for Wendy to get her comeuppance. Oh my god, she was... Just her thought process was so batshit insane, crazy. Oh, she was just a terrible person. You know, as was Andrew in the last book. But we didn't really get Andrew's point of view in the last book. You know, like we got Wendy's in this book. So that was infuriating, but it was a great twist, and one I did not see coming. And then I guess to wrap up the end where Russell gets murdered, and, well, Millie tells Enzo she won't go there, and then she thinks to herself, yeah, I'm going there, and steals Enzo's car. I knew, and then we're at Wendy's point of view, I knew once Wendy found Russell with his throat slit that it wasn't Millie. It just did not seem like her MO to slit Russell's throat like that. So I figured it was Mary Beth, but that was still a cool twist. Although Millie kind of, I don't know if manipulated is the right word, but kind of pushed her into doing it and provided the drug, the fatal drug for Wendy. The ending was crazy, and I felt bad for the real, you know, Douglas Garrick, you know, throughout the whole book. That sucked for him. But I mean, what did you guys think of this book? Because I absolutely loved it. I was on the edge of my seat basically the entire book. There was almost no ramp up period with this one, and I'm really looking forward to the next book. So let me know what you guys thought in the comments. If you're still watching, I'd appreciate if you could like and subscribe. Otherwise, I hope to see you all soon.